Welcome to the Under the Hood Show podcast. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for downloading the Under the Hood Show podcast app, wherever you get your apps. This edition of the podcast is brought to you by
BerkeleyClassics.com, your key to collector car insurance.
And by CardAshPart.com, over 200 million recycled original equipment used parts ready to ship to you fast.
And by Road Ready Wheels, OEM replica wheels at a fraction of the cost. Save even more money if you use the code HOODIE.
If you go to our YouTube channel, you can see this edition of the podcast that you're about to listen to when it was recorded live on video. I don't know why you would want to do that, but go do it. And then the cameras are HD. It's too much. It's a lot of face.
Just too videos. Awesome.
Here is the Under the Hood Show podcast.
Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Recalls.
Yeah, a lot of recalls, right?
My goodness, pay attention to your mail. Watch your email. You might even have your phone ringing.
We had someone post in the Facebook group that Hyundai is suggesting in those vehicles you park your car outside, just like Ford did years ago with the Explorer. Was it the Explorer?
Yeah.
Or a bunch?
But if you go, there was a bunch with the cruise control situation. But if you go to our Facebook page, Under the Hood Show on Facebook, you'll see the link to the news story. 380,000 cars with a potential fire hazard. They did say they have not have one that has had an event that would have been really bad, like burned a garage or a house. Mm-hmm. Or at least they're talking about. But they're telling you, if you're one of these class of cars, you need to pay attention enough that they're saying park your car outside. It's something to do with the electric hydraulic brake system continuing to run, and it is shorting out. And they said if you smell smoke, if you start smelling things, it's an indication you should pay a lot of attention. So get to that Under the Hood Show Facebook page and you can check out that story. But also in recalls, we haven't talked about Takata for a while, so should we talk about Takata?
We might as well.
It's been a while.
We're on a roll.
But automotive news, looking at their final assembly page here, the headline that caught my attention, Ford is on a costly hunt for 45 bad Takata parts. So, is that enough to catch your attention?
That's encouraging that they know that, and also it seems like too much.
So it says here that Ford Motor Company is searching for 45 needles in more than 153,000 haystacks. In this case, the needles are potentially bad Takata airbag inflators that vanished without a trace, and the haystacks are 2004 through 2006. Look how old these are. Ford, as far as, when you look at the grand scheme of things, Ford Rangers that might contain them. Because Ford doesn't know what happened to the obsolete Takata parts, the automaker is recalling 153,107 Rangers at the request of federal regulators. The 45 missing inflators were not purged from service stock after the parts for the permanent service fix became available, Ford says. Following extensive investigation and tracing, Ford could not account for some of the obsolete Takata service parts, indicating that they may have been installed on vehicles as part of collision or theft repairs. Or they could be sitting in a landfill somewhere. Either way, NHTSA says the only way to be sure is to start opening up steering wheels and see what's inside. Just another bizarre and expensive twist in the unending Takata airbag saga.
And just another reason for auto manufacturers to give that information of what's in what vehicle to people like auto recyclers so they know if they've got their hands on one. But I got to say this really carefully.
Sure.
So I'm not harmful to the right person. So let me just think about this bit.
Hey, you know what? We're going to harm somebody every once in a while.
Well, no, this is important. So as a business, let's look at a big company. So we've got Ford, GM, a box company, whatever it is. A big business says, how much money do I want to spend? Am I going to spend $500 million to try to get a whole bunch of vehicles in just to take a peek at them to see if they might have something that could potentially be dangerous. And they go, well, I don't know. Is it worth it? But we don't know what they're thinking there. They might say, absolutely, it's worth it. Every customer is important. But as a customer, if you're driving the vehicle, I definitely want them to recall every single one, because if I'm the one with a loaded gun pointing at me and they don't know if it's my car or not, do I want to be the one that happens to? No. So, of course, I want them to recall everyone. But, boy, that's got to be tough when you don't even know where those parts are. I bet they will from the future on, though. They're getting better all the time.
Is it still a situation where if you go in for that recall, it could be weeks or months or years?
Well, in this case, what they're saying is they had service parts available.
Okay.
They had a group of Ranger pickups that were extra bad as far as what would happen when they exploded.
Okay.
And so they had put a very high alert out on them, and that's what they're talking about, is that they had went through this whole campaign, very aggressive campaign, and they, oh no, we forgot about the ones in the parts area.
Mm-hmm.
They can't figure out where they went, so now they've got to start digging. And so this is a interesting situation. They'll get there. I wonder if they have like somebody in the shop, if they get the right one, if they get to yell Yahtzee or something.
Do they get like a candy bar or something?
Yeah, exactly. There should be something. I mean, 45 across the country. If you had one, I got one. It's like a golden ticket.
Exactly.
In a weird way.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Mississippi and talk to Gail. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Gail, what can we do for you?
I have a 98 Nissan Frontier. It's a 4-cylinder standard, and it's grinding in third and fourth gear. I've taken it to a local transmission place, and they checked to see, if the fluid was draining, but they said it was all fine, but he said it's just wearing out. I bought this truck in 2000, and I don't want to get rid of my truck. I want an antique tag. That's what I'm waiting on. Yeah. So, but he said it would maybe drive like this for a year or maybe 2 years, and he said it would cost $1,200 to rebuild the transmission. Ooh, what else could I do? I mean, I know it's going to have to be replaced sooner or later. I don't drive my truck hard. I don't shift it hard, and I like my little truck.
So when it's doing its thing, and the thing that made you go to the shop, you say is it grinding excessively? Is it popping out of gear? Is it making lots of noise when it's in those gears? Combination of all things. What's the worst of the symptoms?
It's not popping out of gear. It's just it grinds like it has a fifth gear. And when I come out of fifth gear and slow down and try and put it in fourth gear, it grinds pretty bad. So I just leave it in neutral and slow down till I can put it in third, and just skip fourth gear, so I don't get that bad grinding.
But it sounds like if they think it's a transmission problem and they've had it there, they've hopefully analyzed the fact to make sure the clutch is working correctly. Make sure you got a good clutch that frees up that main shaft so that it can shift. But normally when that starts happening, Russ, we see this, the synchronizers start going bad in the transmission, which is basically the blending side of the gear that lets them blend together as you change speed. And the only way you get it to shift then is to slow way down when the gears are almost not moving to get them to mesh back together again. So that synchronizer going bad, as that happens, it also knocks off metal material that ends up getting into the rest of the gears and the bearings eventually. And at some point, it'll be a very nasty failure of the transmission. But their advice or their information, I think, is accurate. It could go that way for quite some time. You could change the fluid a little bit more often just to get some of the metal particles out of there if you start getting some that they find on the magnetic plug, because that should have a magnetic plug on it. And change that a little more often, might give you a little more life. I would want them, though, to make sure the clutch is in good shape and that the shifting tower itself has been inspected so that they're not assuming it's a internal gear problem. And it could be in the shifting tower, because on the floor there's a gate system that controls where the shifter goes and stuff. And we do see those wear from time to time where it's not quite hitting the right spot. and that makes it grind. So you might want to get that inspected. Chris, you're ready to say something.
Well,
over
I'm
there.
just is this a situation where the options are replace it, rebuild it, or it's going to fail? And can she drive it for gingerly the way she's been driving it? Can she drive it forever that way?
Maybe not. It might just quit. I've had one of my own that had a similar trans, and as I drove it, something fell apart in it, and it locked up the rear wheels as I was driving because it dropped it into 2 different gears at the same time, and that can happen.
I think what I mean is it might strand her somewhere, so keep that in mind. But until it goes, it's not going to get worse.
Let me take a shot at this.
Okay.
Because I think I know what angle you're trying to make sure we get across. If it's just the synchronizers and they think that if they have a local person in their shop that can open that transmission up and fix that transmission, or they have a local shop they sublet it to, it might be $1,200.
Okay.
If that thing comes completely apart, drops metal in it, locks into gears like Russ is describing, then you're looking at, oh boy, we got to buy a remanufactured transmission. Maybe that's $2,500, and is the core good enough to give to them at that point? So there are some choices, but to put some just common sense on it, if you don't drive it hard, you take it easy, it probably is going to stay that way for quite a while, but do understand that it could be a just one-day thing, that it's a lot worse.
Gail, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We are at the Nordstrom's 2.0 new Under the Hood Show studio, and that was, I think, our first. What just happened was our first full-on error by me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just made, I think, the first technical error of the new era.
You pushed the button wrong or what?
I didn't push in the middle. It happens. No, I had the wrong thing pushed there, so now we're back. Now we're fine. 866-594-4150. That's the phone number to reach us. I was coming to the studio today from the other studio where I spend my days, and I kind of had one of those moments where we had snow yesterday, we had rain, we had all sorts of stuff going on.
It was gross.
Yeah, and I got in my car that I'm driving my wife's car today. It's been in the garage for, I don't know how long, a week.
Were all the tires aired up?
Yeah, I did that yesterday. I got the thing going, and we had snow, we had I mean, it was kind of not great out there, but I got on the road. I went 80 miles an hour on the interstate. It was all
legally,
clear. Yeah.
Legally, here.
Yeah, it was all clear. Everything was, the road had been pre-treated and the ice was off to the side. That, we really have got this down, don't we? The automobiles and roads. I mean, we are pretty good at that.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're more eager than the system.
Right. Yeah, that happens. I've seen that.
Then it's still old school.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, there's some people that have to go for that early shift.
Yeah.
For whether they work at the hospital or a plant somewhere, and they've got to be the one there. They've got to be there at 3 a.m. to make sure everything's up and going for everybody else that comes at 5 a.m. or whatever it might happen to be. Those people still sometimes have to find some very interesting situations.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Braxton in Idaho. Braxton, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, guys, appreciate your program.
Thanks.
Well, I've got a 2015 GMC Sierra with a 5.3 in it. I've got a problem with the fans kicking on, the cooling fans. It's 16 degrees out here this morning right now, and I'll go out and start it up, and I'll go for maybe half a mile, and my fans kick on. And it will roar for probably a good half hour, 45 minutes. They'll fade out, come back on, and then go off the rest of the day. I've changed the temperature sensor. I've changed the low pressure sensor on the AC unit. I told people that it could be a problem, and I've switched up the thermostat. And this thing just continually does this to me all the time. The dealer has no idea. They put it on the scanner. It doesn't show fail code anywhere. No check engine light. I've checked my wiring. I'm kind of mechanically inclined. I went back and I owned all through my wires. Everything's good. I can't find a short anywhere. But maybe you guys might have an idea what's going on.
Yeah, so the cooling fan circuit on that, the engine computer controls the speed of that. It's running the circuit, and it's pulse width modulated, so it's telling that fan module run at certain times. If there's ever a code in the system anywhere, it's going to turn the fans on to protect things and keep them cool. So you need to kind of reverse engineer this. When you start it up and it's acting up, first thing we do is, after we do our scans and find that we don't see anything, is we get a meter that'll read pulse width modulation. We go right there to the fan controller and we look and see, do I actually have a pulse width signal at my fan controller? And if I do, then I'm going to go back to the engine computer and I'm going to check right at the output. And I'm going to see, do I have a pulse width signal there? And if I have it there, I might even remove it from the fans. I might just take the pin and unclip it so it's pulled out of there, or you can cut it and splice it back together.
That would scare me.
Splice, it's not going to hurt anything, but you can take it off. If the fans immediately stop, you're reading your scanner, right? And your scanner says fans are not on. They're at 0%, nothing on at all. But it's sending a pulse width signal out. That means the computer is bad. So if it says,
bad. Oh boy.
Yeah, if the computer, and that they're not bad. Used one's going to it's definitely reprogrammable. A used one's probably going to cost you maybe $70 or so is average from car-part.com. You can put it in, have it reprogrammed. Most dealers are probably going to be around $100 in your area, so a couple $100.
Now,
so
what do you call this thing you're talking about again? I'm just trying to write this down real quick.
The engine computer.
The engine computer, the whole thing.
Yep, if that is bad. So what's happening is, if it's sending out, if it says it's not commanding the fans on, if it says 0% for fan control on your scanner, but you have a signal coming out of it, pulse width signal coming out, telling those fans to turn on, then that part is bad. It's lying. It's saying, no, we're not on, but it is.
But
it's kind of ironic, because I live 45 miles away from my dealer, and by the time I get there, we're working fine.
Right. And they could check it if it was showing up, but that would mean 45 minutes to leave it there. You'd have to get a ride home. They'd have to check it the next morning when it's cold.
Yeah.
One of the things that, when Russ brings this up, we can do this at our independent repair facility in rural Garretson, South Dakota. Someone near you can also do this. It doesn't have to be the franchise dealer to do this test. Also,
no, I understand that. That's how far away I live from anybody that can do this.
Like at our shop, we could program the computer, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So there are people that could be nearer to you. Now, don't just go buy a computer.
Right.
Because what the important part about Russ, what he said is, you have to know whether if that is being commanded on or not.
So it has to be read live.
Right, because if it is being commanded on by another circuit, say something's wrong in the temp control circuit. Because in a lot of vehicles, when you go to the defrost mode, which on cool mornings on defrost, the fans may kick in. And it could be something coming from another circuit that's saying, turn on. And you could be replacing all this stuff, and maybe it's doing something that it's supposed to do. That would be horrible, but this sounds way different. But you got to make sure where that command is coming from, and if there's no command and you still got a signal, then it's coming from inside that box.
Braxton, thanks very much for the call. Does that help you out there?
Helps me a lot. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your show.
Yeah, that's the thing. With those things, those are, I think, sometimes the most frustrating as a car owner, when it's just, you don't know why it's doing it, and the only way to get it solved is for a couple things to happen right. You know what I mean?
I went up and did a presentation at a driver's ed class, and the instructor was asking me about his Ford Edge. And he's got the issue where when he puts gas in it, and after he fills it, then he starts it up and it acts like it's just not running right. And he's got to check engine light on. But we were just talking it through. I said, at the end of the day, if you can't, we almost have to let the technician fill it with gas. We'll charge you for the gas.
Yep.
And have the scanner on it when he starts it to see exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. See what's going on.
To duplicate that. Otherwise, we could just be guessing.
I think you should be a mobile. You should go live with people for a week when it get, like the spring. In spring, I have a hard time. So you go move in with them for
That'd be a post-COVID business.
Yeah. Good point. Let's keep the mobile down now. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. We'll be back in just a minute. The Under the Hood Show podcast is brought to you exclusively by RoadReadyWheels.com, Car-Parts.com, and by Berkeley Classics. If you want to take part in the show, you can call us every Thursday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central at the number we give on the show, 866-594-4150. And thanks for listening to the Under the Hood Show podcast.
We want to tell you about our partner, Road Ready Wheels. How many times have you heard a call on the show about wheels that look bad or leak air? Or maybe you have a damaged wheel or even want to get a spare winter set to protect your expensive custom wheel investment. Road Ready Wheels has replacement wheels for many OEM manufacturers at a huge cost savings. Example, a Chevy Silverado 2500 with alloy wheels, the dealership cost is about $480. Road Ready Wheels price, $128. That's almost four for the price of one. No one wants to keep adding air to their tires every week. A set of Road Ready Wheels will stop the wheel leaks. Want a great look but are buried in a sea of aftermarket wheels? Consider upgrading your steel wheels to the OEM look alloy wheels. Road Ready Wheels has it. Over 40,000 wheels in stock with free shipping and returns and a 1-year warranty. Listeners save 10% when you use the code HOODIE. Most wheels have an average 2-day transit time once shipped, so you have them fast. These wheels are a direct replacement, which means your TPMS and center caps will fit. Find out more and order yours at RoadReadyWheels.com. That's RoadReadyWheels.com. When you need parts for your car, finding them is half the battle, and we have a great source for you to find those parts you need at great prices.
If you need parts, whether it be for a brand new car or going back about 20 years, it doesn't matter. Check out car-part.com. It's fast and it's easy. Over 200 million parts strong all across North America. Over 4,000 recyclers to choose from, giving you the largest selection available. Whether it's an engine, transmission, doors, seats, or wheels, you can find them on car-part.com. We even let you know what parts from other models and years fit your car. Many recyclers supply pictures of their parts too. We even have a mobile app. Search U.S. and Canada or buy from your local independent recycler. Whichever you choose, buying recycled is good for the environment and good for your wallet. If you're a repair shop, there is a professional version available for you at no charge. That's car-part.com. Car-part.com. Check it out today.
When I got my first specialty car, I called up my agent and had it put under my regular auto policy and had very minimal coverage, even dropping coverage in the storage months to keep the cost down. That was before I met the professionals at Berkeley Classics. I'm Russ Evans, host of the Under the Hood Show with Shannon Nordstrom and Chris Carter. Berkeley Classics taught me things like agreed value. That means if you suffer a total loss, there's no haggle over the value of your vehicle. They also showed me that I could insure my vehicle for what it was really worth and keep my coverage year-round and still save money. I didn't know that my homeowner's policy didn't cover my car when it was stored in my garage without coverage. Insuring a wide range of vehicles from sports cars and rare exotic cars to antique vehicles, including cars, trucks, tractors, and motorcycles, Berkeley Classics makes it easy to get a quote. Just visit their website, berkeleyclassics.com, and use their online quote tool or give them a call at 800-603-3330.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. We're glad to have you with us. You can also join us on Facebook. We do some Facebook Live videos there. We put the podcast there. You can check it all out. And if you like the Facebook page and go to underthehoodshow.com and join the Hoodie Fan Club, you could win a hoodie.
Like Holly Brady, who listens to us in Corinth, Mississippi. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood, and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu. They're the people who can help you out when you want to be mechanics like us. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to work on cars, you want to work on boats, you want to learn welding, you want to maybe even get into NASCAR tech. They're going to help you out. They've got full training available. They've got GIBILL.
The BIBLE.
GIBILL help available as well. They've got representatives there that work right with the factory, so you're getting that information that the factory's having these manufacturers on all the latest tech on cars. So check them out at uti.edu.
I'm trying to get my daughter to go there. She's going to college next year, and I'm trying to push her towards Universal Technical Institute, and I think it might be NASCAR tech that finally gets that in the conversation.
She'd be good. She'd be good at that. You know, but a lot of women and even guys that are think I don't want to do heavy lifting or I don't want to get my hands really dirty, think I'll never get a career in automotive. But I'd say, whoa, back up. Look at the stuff available, especially with electric vehicles and technology that's changing. There are a lot of hands-on, no grease, no dirt, wear a white lab coat type scenarios in automotive right now, where you're scanning cars, you're working with electrical, you're not working with...
He just described me and not my daughter. I think white
when you start
coat
talking, I was looking at Chris like, why are you laughing and smiling? What's going on? What's going on here?
I could wear a white coat and gloves. I could do that.
I can't see you in a white lab coat and gloves.
Well, let's later. I got one in the car. Let's transition into what was shared on the Facebook page just recently. Another diesel tuner company.
Ooh, I didn't see this.
Yeah. Did you see that?
I didn't read all of it, but I heard that the one was coming. They're really cracking down.
Was that in our group or was that on our main page?
Yep.
Yeah, he says.
It's on one of those.
Okay.
Basically, if you're a company that's making something that doesn't meet the EPA regulations, and then finally, if you're an end user, you or I or whoever's using a car that has a tuner in it or any type of emissions defeating device, you've removed the catalytic converter. Well, it hasn't been stolen, sorry. I mean, you actually intentionally removed it because there's so many thefts going on recently. They're starting to come after people, and it's snowballing. It's not just like, oh, maybe we'll do it. They're getting there, and the way the government's doing it, we see them doing all sorts of wacky stuff recently. They want to get everybody. That's their intention because it's a source of income for them. They made the laws that said car can't pollute more than this, and then they put some of this stupid stuff out there. Just really. Some of it's crazy. And when I say stupid stuff, for instance, there are laws that say you cannot take an old vehicle that was a super polluting car and put a brand new modern fuel-injected drivetrain in it where you have maybe a tenth or less, maybe 1/20th of the emissions coming out the tailpipe because it's not the factory engine. It just doesn't work. And to the cause of justification too, there are companies like SEMA and the SEMA show that they're working with the government saying, look, we should be able to certify a lot of these project cars and street rods and things because they are cleaner. And the goal is let's get cleaner cars out there to protect the environment. So they're working there, but we're going to see a lot of crackdown coming.
One of the things I saw, one of the discussions was that the suspicion is that when this happened a few years ago, and then the government laid low to let more companies build up more violations and more money, so then they could go after them instead of shutting down little guys. They wait until they get to be big guys and then go after them. So it has put a lot of those out. Last time we went through this, I mean, I'm sure it's ongoing too. But when we've talked about it in the past, businesses went out because they couldn't. And they couldn't pay their fines, et cetera, but also what they were doing was illegal at its start.
I did a quick look on my phone. I normally won't do that because this is interesting that you brought that up. Because a lot of times people are regurgitating news that's old, that's new to them.
Right.
So I always like to check that.
I did that exact thing when I saw the story to make sure it was a current story.
What the timeline is. And so many people will forward something like, oh, look at this. And you look at the timeline, 2017.
Yeah.
Yep.
But in this case, the EPA alert cites, and this was from just January, very recently, $2 million fine levied against Rockwater Northeast, a Pennsylvania-based hauling service, and related $2.3 million fine on Select Energy Solutions, a Texas-based successor in interest to Rockwater. In that case, 6 people were charged with conspiring to violate the Clean Air Act by using aftermarket defeat devices on about 30 heavy-duty trucks. The case also resulted in one defendant being sentenced in February to a 6-month prison sentence. Last year, Deltona, Florida-based Punch It Performance and Tuning, Michael Paul Shimmick and affiliated companies and individuals were fined $850,000 for manufacturing and selling pickup truck products that altered engine performance and enabled the removal of filters, catalysts, and other critical emission controls.
And that wasn't the one I saw.
And this follows the 2019 $1.1 million judgment against Performance Diesel, which the EPA says sold at least 5,549 aftermarket defeat devices for heavy-duty diesel engines. And it goes on to talk about it more. But there must be something else out there that we hadn't gotten wind of, but we'll have to check that out.
David, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the call. Say, I got an 05 McCormick tractor with lights all over it, front and back. And when they're on dim, they work fine. But when I either put the work lights on or put them on high beam, I get this hot electrical smell. I don't know if you know what I mean. So, I took the hood off or the dash off, and there's these four. They're about inch by inch. I don't think they're fuses, but they pull out. And 2 out of the 4 were really hot. So I bought new ones. They're about $70 and replaced them. But I'm still getting the smell. I don't know if that's where the smell was coming from, but what do you guys think that might be?
I just want to ask one question before we jump on this. What year did you say it was?
It said 05.
05. And what kind of tractor?
It's a McCormick.
Okay.
And you've added these lights, right? All the high beam lights?
No, that's all come standard with them.
Okay.
I have a question. When you discovered the fuses were hot, did you discover it right away, or was it after you had a good grip on them and then all of a sudden it triggered that they were hot?
No, I was just smelling around and they were in their way, so I couldn't really get my head in there. But they were hot, a lot hotter than the other ones.
Well,
the other ones were just warm, but the 2 middle ones, they were really hot.
This is a problem with a lot of vehicles that were, in my opinion, just designed poorly. They didn't give enough contact areas and wire gauge for some of the circuits that they have in them. My truck is one of them. If you ran that thing on high beam for more than about 15 minutes, which can happen in some rural areas, it doesn't
to me
usually
every day.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. So, but for 90% of the country, it probably doesn't happen. But if you're in an area and you drive at night and it's on, well, what happens is my headlight switch would start to melt, and I'd have to replace it every couple years. Some vehicles, like certain Jeeps, have issues with the blower fan, and some of the Sierra trucks had blower fan issues where if you ran it on high too long, it would start melting the wires. So to get around that, extra relays need to be put in. Now, you could put in a relay that's heavy enough. You need to get an amp meter and find the wire that powers those high beams. See how much amps you're drawing. And if you look at it, and if you see that you're pulling, let's say, 29 amps on that thing, now you know how many amps you have. That is making your wire hot. So you would get a relay that had enough current available to handle that. Let's say a 40 amp relay, and you hook the lights to one side of it with the right gauge wire. The other side, you hook directly to your battery with the correct fuse to cover that. And then your headlight wire that was going directly to the lights before, well, that's going to turn your relay on. So now you've taken all the load off of that headlight wire, the headlight switch, and all your fuses, and now you're not going to have a problem with them getting warm ever again. And the relay is going to be handling that load. That's where it's going to take the current. And
what you're going to have to make sure of, though, would be when you start that process, on the lighting circuit, make sure it makes sense. If you've got 6 lights and you know each one's rated at whatever amps, do the math and see if it's close. If you've got excessive amp draw on that circuit, there may be a wire pinch running through the body of the cab. There could be something that is causing it to grab that load. Or did someone add an aftermarket accessory somewhere else that got tapped into the lighting circuit that wasn't supposed to?
Change the bulbs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, changing to upgraded bulbs will also do that. A lot of people will switch out their standard headlight bulb for an aftermarket one that takes more current, and that'll cause that problem too.
Which is something to check for.
Yeah, so you don't want to find, okay, what's this circuit supposed to be? And all of a sudden, maybe this circuit's running 20 amps hotter than it's supposed to. You're gonna heat some stuff up because it wasn't designed for that. But I think Russ hit it on the head. A lot of that stuff just is not engineered correctly, or they engineer it so tight to save costs that they don't leave any room for error. And since he brought it up, just going to bring it up one more time. On a lot of vehicles, he talked about adding different bulbs that add more resistance to the circuit. On a lot of this modern stuff, you'll run into more problems when you add the LED bulbs with less resistance. And some of those circuits are looking for a certain amount of resistance to operate correctly. And all of a sudden, people will put in LED bulbs, and if they don't, sometimes you have to put a resistor with them, different things. So when you start switching bulbs, always pay attention to what is going to happen for the rest of the circuit.
David, thanks very much for the call. Let's talk to Ken, who's been waiting for a while. Ken, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, guys, one of your favorite things, the catalytic converter. Well, now, one of my biggest questions is the brand new, I think it's like 15 years old. I thought it was like ceramic coating instead of platinum for these catalytic converters. Is that true, or what's going on?
There are certain converters that use ceramics inside of them, and they have a higher content.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they have a higher content of those versus the precious metals, and they also use that ceramic to kind of contain the puck of precious metal, so they don't have to have so much, I believe is how that works. Because when we send our catalytic converters in to be assayed, which is the process of breaking them down and filtering out the precious metals, we get a count on what percentage of ceramics are in our load. And so I've never completely understood that, but there definitely is ceramic properties used in many of them. Now, there's also, when you go to buy a catalytic converter for replacement, and you buy one from, say, brand X at a muffler store that is aftermarket, there are many of those that are EPA legal compliant, but there are many of those that are probably not correct because they just don't have the material in them. There's a reason why they cost a lot less. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
And they may not have the material in them to do a full range of catalyst effect that it needs. It'll still, how do you say that, Russ?
It keeps the light off, but it's not cleaning the air the way it should. And it says right on there when you buy it, it says does not meet EPA regulations, even though it's a catalytic converter.
Is it a situation where they might make it just good enough to do it for a certain car and then...
Well, no, it'll last for a certain period.
Yeah.
So if you've got, let's say it's a used car, you want to sell it and the light has to be off, or you want to pass emissions in your state, you throw one of these on and it works. Maybe it's only good for a year or two and then it's off. Well, if you're getting rid of the car, people are doing that as opposed to spending thousands of dollars on one. But as a shop, when we install them, we have to install the good one that says it meets EPA rules, because I have not seen a paper with legislation that specifies it says must have a working catalytic converter. I would venture to guess if you intentionally install one on a car that says does not meet EPA regs, I think you would still be in violation of violating the rules. So
I'd hope they'd say you gave it a good attempt.
They go, oh, nice try. Let's try again.
Because the government's always good about giving people a pass for a good attempt.
They always take the situation. And
the highest majority of consumers, unless they're hoodies, probably would have no clue of that. They'd just know that they got a new catalytic converter and they'd be fine with it. And we've done it on our own vehicles from time to time.
Well,
we had things that went to a shop and they said, hey, we have this option. And we're like, okay. But to admit that I ever went down and said, would you show me the box of that option you put on there so that I can study the box and read all the labeling and call the company and make sure what content it has? I didn't. But I just wanted to know how much it cost.
If he's asking, is there a way that they can go with a completely, like a ceramic alternative so there's no precious metals in there? Maybe someday they'll figure it out. But if they do, these morons are still going to steal them and go, oh, what do you mean it's worth nothing? I should get money for it, because they're...
That hits the nail on the head, because the majority of the thieves that are out there right now, some of them probably are smart enough to know what vehicles to hit because they've got a more valuable content in them. But many of them are going to be looking for things that are easy to steal, and they may get one that's a total dud, and I'm just smiling all the way to that crook having to deal with it.
Like the diesel ones that are worth nothing because they're not converters, basically. What they're doing is they're causing, when they take off those DPF systems off these trucks, they're not getting any money for them, and they're costing the owner and the insurance company thousands of dollars. You could have, we had one that had an engine destroyed when they tried to cut they thought they were getting a converter off it in a motorhome, and they ended up cutting the engine block. So it's crazy. They took one off my mom's car, which was worth that converter. You know, we've replaced those and turned them in, and they're worth like $13. They're completely worth nothing, but it cost us $800 to have it replaced. It just doesn't make sense, but they hear that there's something of a value, so they steal it. They do make a lock, and I don't know how effective it is, but Shannon and I saw this thing way back in 2014. It was a cable that wrapped around the converters and then clipped and made it extremely hard for, even if they could get the pipe cut, they couldn't get the converter out of the vehicle.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That would be a deterrent.
Yeah, with that cage on there, but I just don't know how.
A friend of mine in Texas that owns another auto recycling facility, he has a lot of trucks on the road, and like Russ said, parts of that DPF system are worth nothing. Other parts of it have some pretty high content in that system, and so they were getting theirs cut off.
Don't say that. Go ahead.
They got heavy log chain and wrapped it around the exhaust and welded it. All the way around, they welded it. From, every few inches, they put a weld on it, and they put that lug chain around there. Yes, could you still cut through it? Yeah, but you're going to have a heck of a time.
Well, and another thing they need to do, and this is my opinion, Shannon to know more because he is an auto recycler. If somebody comes here with a pickup load or even
we don't
one or
buy
two
them.
Converters, our rule is we don't buy them. But we do know for a fact there are companies out there that will take them, and they'll just throw them in the pile in the back, and they'll say, scrap metal, and they'll give them money for it under the table, basically, and then they'll take them and turn them in as their legal ones, and that is wrong. And
that's full wrong.
Whenever anybody gets caught
wrong.
like
that's
that,
wrong.
They should just be really strung up because that is something that is.
Hey, you need to get rid of the market. The illegal market,
sure.
And then you can stop the theft.
It's just so much money that's
that was a story on Facebook the other day, and someone said that. Who are these people that are buying them? They should get in trouble. Well, yeah, they would.
If we knew.
Yeah, they're doing it. I mean, it's not a legal process that's being exploited.
The same process in most states that's been passed for if you buy scrap copper or scrap aluminum needs to be applied to catalytic converters if it isn't already in their law. So that way, if somebody brings in a content that's worth more than, like in our state, I think it's more than $100, you have to provide ID and all those things, and it has to be a log that's kept by the buyer. And so that is, our threshold is the same way on a catalytic converter if somebody brings them in. Because at our U-Pull-It, we do have a board of trade where we let people bring things in, but we don't pay very much for them. And if it's over $100, you're given full identification, or we're not taking them.
We should get Under the Hood Show branded signs. Remember, you used to put a sign up that said "car, no stereo in car."
Yeah,
no catalytic converter on the car, or detachable faceplates on the catalytic converter.
Detachable converters.
There we go.
Take them with you when you leave.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com. And don't forget to check out our new app with the podcast on it. That'll do it for the Under the Hood Show.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom thanking you for tuning into the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Find out more by visiting underthehoodshow.com. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc.